Hi, welcome to the Daily Discussion. I am Jessica Lau, and joining me today are Mr. Nathan De La Cruz and Mr. Eric Meisner, representing the Liberals platform, Woodrow Wilson. Also from the Conservatives platform, Ms. Alexis Ortega and Mr. Pedro De La Cruz, representing William H. Taft. A few points we will be discussing today are the issues of this year 1912, women's suffrages, antitrust laws, and tariffs. A few rules before we begin are for the speakers to please be relevant to this time period of 1912. Please be respectful to each other, and also for the speakers to please keep it within the time frame of 30 to 35 seconds. And the first point we will be discussing are women's suffrage, and a few things about women's suffrage is that it began in 1848, and the goal is to attain rights as men and the right to vote. Mr. Nathan De La Cruz will be representing our point.
Well, the Democratic Party does not have a stance on women's suffrage. However, I think most would agree because the Democrats look for equality for everyone. I would assume that most Democrats would agree to promote women's suffrage.
Okay, and Ms. Alexis Ortega.
So traditionally, Republicans have never been in favor of women's suffrage, and Taft was quoted in 1909 saying, "I'm not in favor of suffrage for women until I can be convinced that all women desire it, and when they desire it, I'm in favor of giving it." Taft isn't coming right out saying that he supports women's suffrage, but this tells us that he's not going to stand in the way of it if it comes across his desk and as an amendment, and that should be reassuring to women.
Okay, Mr. Eric Meisner, what is your opinion on this whole situation?
I find it interesting that Taft just wants to wait for it to come to him. Why doesn't he just go out there and get it himself? Why does he have to wait for everybody to come to him with problems? He's the president. He should just go right at it.
Okay. And Mr. De La Cruz, your point of view?
Well, I'd like to point out that traditionally Republicans were the first to support it, but as my associate did say, if the women want it, they got to let us know that they want it, because it may only be just a small majority that really want it. So if they want it, we'll be more than happy to accommodate them.
Okay, very well. Moving on to antitrust laws. And this time we're going to begin with the Conservatives platform. Ms. Alexis Ortega, you may begin.
So the Republican Party believes that all people deserve an equal opportunity to earn success, and that monopolies should not be given any special privileges. Taft believes in an open market, but let me point out that there are good trusts, and he recognizes these as such. And also let me remind people that Taft, in his presidency, he busted 2 times as many trusts as Roosevelt did. And under Taft, trusts are to be dealt with and regulated in order to ensure a free market.
Okay. Mr. De La Cruz.
Well, the Democratic Party is also against trusts. We're for antitrust laws. However, we're more for enforcing laws that prevent these trusts from becoming too powerful and becoming monopolies, and making sure that they're prosecuted for whatever laws or policies that they break.
Okay, Mr. De La Cruz, how do you weigh in on this antitrust laws?
Well, now we should be able to make everything a lot more competitive, which would probably drive consumer prices down, for the average consumer. It would also be a lot better for those who wish to start their own business, a little mom and pop shop, and then that way, in doing so, if those folks can pursue the American dream.
Okay, Mr. Eric Meisner, what is your point?
So it's not a question of how we're going to get rid of the monopolies. It's who's going to do the most to get rid of the monopolies. Which one of our candidates is going to do the most to make the economy more fair.
Okay. And our last point for today are tariffs, and the Liberals platform will begin.
I'll just go ahead and read this quote from the Democratic Party that they declare it to be a fundamental principle of the Democratic Party that the federal government under the Constitution has no right or power to impose or collect tariff duties except for the purpose of revenue for the federal government. And they demand that the collection of such taxes shall be limited to the necessities of government honestly and economically administered. It should not favor specific companies or businesses, and we also would like to reduce tariffs and keep them lower.
Okay, Ms. Alexis Ortega, what would Taft do to tariffs? How will you address this?
The Republican protective tariff has been one of the greatest benefits to this country. It forces us to develop resources here in our country, and we are diversifying our industries. And this also protects our workers from being in competition with people overseas who can provide cheaper labor. It keeps everything here in America.
Okay, Mr. Meisner, your point of view?
Well, I mean, not everything's in America, and if we have tariffs that are really high, importing goods such as rubber, which is right now one of the biggest items needed to make, let's say, a car for the tires, that's gonna increase causing a inflation with cars. So cars are now gonna cost more because we have to import this rubber to make the tires to put on the cars.
Okay, Mr. De La Cruz.
Well, we really should keep Americans, or from buying these foreign products, or at least limit it to a good extent. It's better to keep that money within the U.S. and to keep hard working Americans working in America, as opposed to, as my associate said, sending those jobs overseas.
Okay. To end this discussion for today, we are going to have the two speakers give their point or give their conclusions about their platform. So, Ms. Alexis Ortega, what are your opinions about how the outcome of your presidential candidate will be?
So William Taft is the incumbent here, but that doesn't help him at all in this, because he went into his last presidency as someone who would carry on Roosevelt's policies, but somewhere along the way he went against what Roosevelt originally stood for, and because of that it has forced Roosevelt to create the Progressive Party, and that basically splits the Republican Party in two, making him the underdog here. Taft has all the tools to make this happen, but it's going to be really difficult for him to win this election.
Okay, and how about your presidential candidate, Mr. De La Cruz?
I feel that Wilson's going to end up winning this election because Taft, as my associate here said, he seems kind of lazy. He has, as you said, he has all the tools to make certain things happen, and we haven't seen anything happen. We can agree that most people want women's suffrage, and he says, I'll wait until people tell me they want women's suffrage. And I just don't believe that he's a good candidate for president.
Okay, well, this concludes our segment for today. Thank you for joining us, representatives. And there you have it. You have the opinions from the representatives of Wilson and Taft. Thank you.